film, a first for a South Korean movie. The U.S. and Iran trade threats over the drone strike last week that killed Iran's top general. Fears of a conflict send global stock markets down and oil prices sharply higher. And South Korean companies prepare to show off some amazing new devices at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Samsung, for one, has already unveiled the industry's first TV that's all screen. Almost no bezel around it at all. It's 4:00 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. It's yet another award for the South Korean film Parasite. It's been honored at the Golden Globe Awards as the year's best foreign language film, becoming the first South Korean film to achieve that distinction. Lee Min-sun tells us more.
Another historic achievement for South Korean film Parasite, as it becomes the first South Korean film to win a Golden Globe. It won Best Foreign Language Film at the awards ceremony on Sunday local time in Los Angeles. Before Parasite, no other South Korean film had even been nominated for a Golden Globe. Amazing and unbelievable. That's what director Bong said after receiving the award. He added it was a huge honor to be nominated along with fellow international filmmakers, and said once audiences overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, they will be introduced to so many more amazing films.
This is the third film from East Asia to win a Best Foreign Language Film award at the Golden Globes. It's a great achievement for both South Korea and East Asia. Also, at least in the US, Parasite has laid the groundwork for Korean films, as audiences and film critics came into contact with South Korean cinema through Parasite.
In May last year, Parasite became the first South Korean film to win the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. And that was just the beginning. The black comedy has picked up awards from film critics associations, the most recent additions being the Best Picture and Best Screenplay awards from the US-based National Society of Film Critics over the weekend, and the Best Picture from the Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts Award. All of these are paving way for a possible win at the Oscars, which would also be another unprecedented achievement for a South Korean film. Parasite has been selected as South Korea's entry in the category of Best International Feature Film and for Best Original Song at the upcoming Academy Awards in February. The final nominations will be announced next week, and critics have been saying Parasite could even be nominated for Best Picture and Best Director. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News.
After the U.S. drone strike that killed Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, Iran has removed all limits on its uranium enrichment, ending its remaining commitments to the 2015 nuclear deal. And neighboring Iraq, where the killing occurred, has called on all foreign military forces to leave the country. Hong Yu reports.
In an announcement on its state television on Sunday, Iran said it would no longer abide by any part of the nuclear deal it made with world powers in 2015. This includes its commitment to limit the enrichment of uranium.
The government of the Islamic Republic of Iran has, in a statement, announced its fifth and final step in reducing Iran's commitments under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The Islamic Republic of Iran no longer faces any limitations in operations, including enrichment capacity, enrichment percentage, stockpile of enriched material, and research and development.
EU nations have desperately attempted to salvage the deal amid President Trump's decision to withdraw and reimpose sanctions on Tehran. Ever since, Iran has gradually reduced its commitments, but this announcement leaves the deal in complete disarray. Iran's foreign ministry added it would now take even bigger steps away from the deal than initially planned. The fallout for the United States following the drone strike last Friday that killed General Qasem Soleimani does not end there. Iraq's parliament passed a resolution on Sunday to work on expelling the U.S. and other foreign military forces from the country. The resolution aims to get the U.S. to withdraw the roughly 5,000 American troops present across Iraq. The troops were sent there 4 years ago to fight the Islamic State terror group. The bill is non-binding and needs to be approved by the Iraqi government. But it's likely to be backed by Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi, as he has already called on Parliament to end the presence of foreign troops in Iraq. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
Iran has vowed revenge for the killing of its general, but U.S. President Donald Trump has warned Iran that if it attacks the United States or Americans, it'll face a disproportionate response. Trump tweeted on Sunday that the U.S. will quickly and fully strike back if it's targeted by any military action by Tehran. Earlier Sunday, President Trump said that in the event of an attack, Washington will send brand new, beautiful equipment to Iran without hesitation. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the world is a safer place after the killing of Iran's top military commander. And America, he says, is willing to do anything it takes to protect its citizens, officials, and military service members. Kim Hyo-sun reports.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has defended the U.S. drone strike, which killed Iran's military commander Qasem Soleimani, sending another warning that Washington will respond strongly if Iran retaliates. During an interview with ABC News on Sunday, Pompeo said the world is a safer place with Soleimani out of the picture. Speaking on NBC's Meet the Press on the same day, he stressed the Trump administration is committed to protecting Americans.
They do, that our response will be decisive and vigorous, just as it has been so far. But we're going to take all actions necessary, not only in Iraq, but throughout the region, to protect Americans, American citizens, as well as my diplomats and service members who are serving overseas. We're always going to do the right thing to protect America, and I am confident.
He also explained that the U.S. wants Iran to behave like a normal nation.
Years, diplomatic, economic, now military, to convince the Iranian regime to simply behave like a normal nation and to raise the cost when they inflict harm on America if they don't.
Over the weekend, President Trump took to Twitter to warn Iran that it will face very specific military action if it decides to strike any Americans or American assets in the region. He said Washington has 52 Iranian sites in its crosshairs, adding the country will be hit very fast and very hard if necessary. The remarks sparked an immediate response from Iran. The military advisor to Iran's supreme leader said in an interview with CNN on Sunday that it was Washington that had initiated war and it should accept appropriate reactions to the actions it has taken. Tehran has also vowed to take revenge by raising a red flag on top of the Jamkaran Mosque, declaring that it's ready for war. The red flag symbolizes both blood spilled unjustly and serves as a call to take revenge. Against this backdrop, America's allies, including Britain, are also taking measures to protect their own nationals in the region. British troops in Iraq are to be given greater firepower to protect themselves and guard British diplomats from any possible Iranian-led attacks. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
North Korea's official news agencies reported for the first time on the killing of Iran's General Soleimani, and another North Korean propaganda outlet saying the Middle East could become a, quote, graveyard for the U.S. The state-run Korean Central News Agency's report on Monday said China and Russia condemned last Friday's attack as a violation of the UN Charter, referring to a phone conversation Saturday between China and Russia's top diplomats. And according to an article published on Sunday by Meadi, a North Korean propaganda outlet, the U.S. is being, quote, bogged down in a war in the Middle East. The North Korean government is yet to issue an official response to Soleimani's killing. 3 Americans were killed Sunday at a military base in Kenya in an attack by the Somalia-based terrorist group Al-Shabaab. According to a statement released by the U.S. military, 1 was a military service member and 2 were Defense Department contractors. 2 other Americans working for the Defense Department were wounded and were evacuated. In the assault, which lasted 4 hours, the local police said the Islamist militants destroyed 2 planes, 2 helicopters, and multiple military vehicles. The Kenyan military said 5 militants were killed. South Korea's presidential office says it plans to hold a National Security Council meeting this afternoon on the situation unfolding in the Middle East. President Moon Jae-in has ordered the NSC Standing Committee to look thoroughly at the security situation, as well as the supply of oil and the security of Koreans living in the region. The president specifically ordered Industry Minister Sung Yun-mo to attend the meeting to focus on minimizing the impact of any issues with the oil supply. President Moon will deliver a New Year's address on Tuesday in which he'll lay out the policy direction of his administration for the new year. According to the Blue House, the president will make his speech at the first cabinet meeting of the year. Last week, he vowed to make decisive changes that people would actually be able to feel. He's expected to talk about these changes, including ones related to reforming the prosecution and reviving the economy. Attention's also on what kind of a message the president will have on North Korea and the peace process on the Korean Peninsula. To prepare for the speech, President Moon has cleared his schedule for today, even canceling his weekly meeting with his top aides. In Las Vegas, ahead of the annual Consumer Electronics Show, Samsung Electronics has introduced a line of new 8K TVs that are frameless and use artificial intelligence to do some amazing things. Samsung unveiled the TVs on Sunday local time, 2 days before the start of CES. These 8K ultra-high-definition models are the first in the industry to be practically bezel-free. That is, the frame around the screen is just 2.3 millimeters wide, giving it a screen-to-body ratio of 99%. It uses new AI processors with machine learning to optimize the display and audio quality to your surroundings. And it can mirror your smartphone screen just by tapping the phone on the TV. Samsung has also released a TV whose screen can rotate, so it's standing vertically to play content in portrait mode like a smartphone. Samsung's rival, LG Electronics, will unveil its own 8K displays at CES, which opens Tuesday. And when the Consumer Electronics Show does open, there will be around 390 South Korean companies exhibiting there. According to the Korea Information and Communication Technology Industry Association, Korea has the third highest number of participants at the trade show this year, behind the U.S. and China. Along with 6 conglomerates like Samsung, South Korea will be represented by around 180 small and medium-sized companies and 200 startups. The association credited the high participation rate, a jump of 77% from last year, to the overseas expansion of local startups. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news on this Monday afternoon. And for that, I'm joined on the line by Dr. Yang Jun-suk, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, thank you for coming on today.
Happy to be here.
Well, tensions are extremely high this week in the Middle East, of course, after the U.S. drone strike that killed the Iranian general. Iran is vowing revenge. This is a major new uncertainty for financial markets, the potential for conflict there. What's the story in the markets today?
Okay, well, the U.S. markets were on Friday were down. S&P were down by 0.7%. The Dow and Nasdaq were down by 0.8%. It was the downward trend was led by airlines and also technology companies. Now, there's been the reason for this is fairly clear. The assassination of the Iranian general, but there's also some speculation on why did Trump assassinated the General Soleimani. Some people are raising some conspiracy theories. It's to raise oil prices, since the U.S. is now the largest producer of oil, and shale oil producers had been complaining about low oil prices. There's also some speculation that perhaps it was due to President Trump trying to get attention away from the impeachment proceedings. But there's also been some other bad news as well in the U.S. markets. The manufacturing was doing very badly. Reports came out on Friday, and it was mostly due to the halt in production of Boeing MAX 737s. And apparently there's now speculation that it's not just software problems involved there, but also some wiring problems, some physical problems as well. The European markets also went down for the most part on Friday. The DAX went down by 1.25%. Euro 50 went down by 0.5%. But United Kingdom's FTSE actually rose by 0.2%, and that's because the oil company stocks actually went up, and it's probably because the higher oil prices, people are speculating that the oil companies will actually do fairly well. The Asian markets, well, today, most of the Asian markets, the Nikkei, Australia, Hong Kong, Shanghai, they were all down. So there has been a lot of uncertainties added into the market.
Certainly, there have been, and oil prices, as you say, they're now at 3 or 4 month highs. Do you think that is going to be sustained, or is it going higher? What do you think?
Right now, it's too soon to make a long-term analysis, but at least the short-term analysis that are coming out seems to be saying that the uranium problem will be at least a medium to longer-term problem. It will not go away in a few days or a few weeks. And the Brent oil futures are now rising above $70 per barrel. West Texas Intermediate is now about $64 per barrel. And some analysts, like Capital Economics, are warning that the oil prices may go up to about $150 per barrel. I personally think that's overestimated, but still, it does seem like there's a lot of uncertainty here right now. But also, I should mention that oil prices right now are only slightly higher than what it was at the end of last year. The prices had fallen drastically in the first few days of the year, and it just recovered that prices so far. But the prices have been on a rising trend since October, and that will probably continue.
Well, if there was any type of conflict there in the Middle East, Korea would unavoidably be affected, especially in terms of importing oil. How have Korea's financial markets done today, and what effect do you see if this does become a long, drawn-out situation?
Okay, well, KOSPI went down by 1%. It ended today at 2,155.07. KOSDAQ went down by 2.18%. It ended today at 655.33. You could say that this is another kick in Korea's stock market because, well, Korean economy was not expected to do much better this year, and there had been a lot of instabilities in Korean stock market as well, and this is another problem on top of the many problems that we had.
Indeed. Well, speaking of outlooks for this year, a lot of data coming out this week. The World Bank with a global outlook, the Korea Development Institute on the local economy as well. What's on the schedule this week?
Okay, well, domestically, on tomorrow, BOK, Bank of Korea, is announcing November's current account figures, and it'll probably show that Korea continue to have a current account surplus in November, but as we know from the trade account, the exports and imports both probably went down. And then the Ministry of Economics, Planning and Finance, they're planning to announce their economic plans tomorrow as well, and it mostly has to do with economic stabilization. This also feeds in with President Moon's New Year's address, so they'll probably announce major economic plans to try to revitalize the economy. And then on Friday, we'll have Bank of Korea minutes of December Monetary Policy Board meeting where we can get a clearer idea on whether there's forces to lower the rates or leave the rates as is for the foreseeable future. On the foreign side, the United States is going to announce their trade accounts and factory orders. It'll be an indicator of whether the U.S. protectionism will get worse this year. It probably will because right now the bet is on the trade account deficit worsening. And then factory orders will give some signs on whether the manufacturing will do better this year. Probably not because the Boeing problem that we mentioned earlier. And then on the 10th, U.S. time, U.S. will announce the U.S. employment rate for December, and that'll show whether the U.S. economic growth will continue throughout the year or whether they'll whether they foresee some kind of a slowdown in the future.
All right, Professor Yang, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for making time as always.
Thank you.
In other news, self-driving cars might become a reality for ordinary people here in South Korea as soon as July, with the government having authorized car makers to start selling cars with a limited level of self-driving technology. Our Ji-young has more.
South Korea has enabled automakers to sell cars with Level 3 self-driving technology in the local market as early as July. That Level 3 autonomy means the driver is free to take their hands off the steering wheel and do other activities while driving on highways, but they need to be ready to take full control of the vehicle in an emergency situation.
The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport announced on Sunday that it has adopted a set of safety standards needed for Level 3 autonomous vehicles, including a lane-keeping function when driving on highways. The ministry said that South Korea is the first country in the world to implement safety standards for Level 3 self-driving vehicles. Under the standards, the Level 3 self-driving vehicles should have functions that keep vehicles in their lane, maintain a safe distance from other cars, and alert the driver to intervene in an emergency. There are 5 levels of self-driving technology as defined by the U.S. Society of Automotive Engineers International. At Level 5, cars can operate autonomously in every situation. Currently, cars with Level 2 self-driving technology are being manufactured and sold in Korea. These Level 2 autonomous cars assist drivers in keeping in lane, braking, steering, and acceleration, but drivers must keep their hands on the wheel and are not free to do other activities. An official from the Advanced Vehicle Technology Department at the Ministry of Transport said that Hyundai and Kia Motors, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz are expected to launch self-driving cars with Level 3 self-driving technology in the first half of 2021. 엄지영, Arirang News.
Artificial intelligence will be one of the key industries in coming years, and new research shows how South Korea compares to its global rivals in the industry. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Capability in artificial intelligence can be measured by several indicators. The National Information Society Agency has done research to estimate how much South Korea has developed by comparing it with the US, Japan, China, India, Israel, and Europe. The results of the research show that South Korea is among the leaders in AI, but that there are also some areas that the country needs to work on. China ranked first for the number of patents registered with around 1,300 patents. The US was next with about half of China's, and South Korea ranked third, just behind the US. When it comes to the number of research papers published, China again led the way, followed by the US, with Europe third with more than 130 papers. The US was top for AI market size, followed by the England and China. South Korea was ranked fifth for AI market size. Although one of the leaders in AI, South Korea is quite a way behind the US and China. An expert on AI says the South Korean public didn't show much interest in AI until Korean Go master Lee Se-dol was defeated by an AI opponent. Yet, he said Korea can develop its AI industry much more if unnecessary regulations are abolished.
The biggest weakness of South Korea's AI industry is that it cannot use data effectively due to the law and systems which need to be redesigned. So it is necessary to get rid of regulations that deter the development of AI, make a choice and focus on something we're good at.
Given that South Korea is well known for its IT technology, the expert said much progress could be possible if data can be freely used. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
South Korea's foreign exchange reserves hit a new all-time high for the third consecutive month in December. The Bank of Korea says reserves amounted to around $409 billion last month, up some $1.4 billion on month. The central bank attributed the rise to the weaker greenback that pushed up the value of non-dollar denominated foreign assets. As of the end of November, South Korea had the world's 9th largest foreign exchange reserves, with China topping the list. Train tickets for the Lunar New Year holiday will go on sale in South Korea for 2 days starting Tuesday, both on and offline. Korail says tickets for the Gyeongbu, Gyeongjeon, Donghae, Daegu, and Chungbuk lines will be available on Tuesday. Those for the Honam, Jeolla, and Gangneung lines will be sold on Wednesday. Korail says it has allocated 80% of the tickets for sale online, while the remaining 20% will be sold at stations and travel agencies. Online bookings will begin at 7 a.m. Korea time, and offline bookings start an hour later. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.
What can the store be?